steps in DB first approach. First, let's go with this console application in your Visual Studio. So first you have to go to Solution Explorer, select the project where you want to operate the table. So right click on the project, go to add, and here you need to select an option new item. Once again I am repeating. So you need to go to Solution Explorer, select your project, right click on it and go to add and select a new item. So then you can see a pop-up. In the left hand side there are the types of items where you can include these into your project. So in the left hand side select data, and after that you can see the first option ADO.NET Entity Data Model. So whenever we are going with DB first approach, you need to select this step, ADO.NET Entity Data Model. So you can give some name. I am giving some DB model. You can give any name, there is no issue at all, but it should not be a predefined keyword, remember that. So after clicking on add, again you can see one more pop-up. So there are different types of entity data models are available. So which type of entity model you want to select? So since we are going with this DB first approach, you have to select EF Designer from database. So that means you want to design Entity Framework Designer from the database. So that's nothing but DB first approach. So click on next. So after that there is an option called new connection. Click this. So whenever you are opening for the first time, you will get a pop-up like this, okay? Don't confuse with that. So select Microsoft SQL Server. So after that it will ask you for the server name. If you remember, this step I covered at the time of when you want to generate the database connection. So now you copy the server name and here you can post it. So after that choose what type of authentication it is, either it is Windows authentication or SQL Server authentication. So I am going with this Windows authentication. When the server name and authentication both are correct, system will populate the list of available databases. So then select your database name and simply click on the test connection. It need to get succeeded. So then click on OK. So then system is going to show you whatever the database name followed by entities keyword. Okay. One more thing guys, if you are selecting SQL authentication, that means there is a user ID password, right? So this particular user ID and password system is going to store in this app.config. So the sensitive data is going to store here. You want to confirm it by clicking on S, then only it can save. Okay. And one more thing, in app.config it is going to save with the database name followed by entities word. Instead of that, for every database it is going to change the syntax. That's the reason I am going to use the word DB entities. This you can change anything, but to make a common syntax for all the entity framework versions, I am going to make it as DB entities. And then click on the next. Then you can choose which type of entity framework version you want to install, whether it is 5.0 or 6.x. 6.x in the sense under the version 6, whichever the latest release is there, that is going to consider. So then it is going to populate the list of tables, views and stored procedures available in that database. So by clicking on this arrow mark, you can select which table you want to work with. I want to work with the users. Make sure that table contains a primary key, otherwise it won't work, okay? So then you can see this particular element pluralize or singularize the generated object names. That means if it is the name contains a plural word, it will make singular. The table was converted into a class format. So since this is users, it will generate the class name as user. So if it is user, it will generate the class name as users. That's the reason you need to click on this pluralize or singularize the object names. Okay. So if suppose if that table contains some foreign key relation, you can import them also. That's what this particular tick mark indicates. Okay. So it is asking for a model namespace. Let it be whatever it is generating. Don't change. Click on finish. Then your table will get converted as a class into our program. That's what this entity framework is. let it generate. It is going to take a bit time. ఏం చెప్పాడు కన్క్లూజన్?
డాక్యుమెంట్ వస్తుందంట, అయితే ప్రింట్అవుట్ చేసి సైన్ చేసి మళ్ళీ అప్లోడ్ చేయాలి.
జాయినింగ్ చెప్పాను
వర్డ్ క్లోజ్ అని చెప్తున్నాడు.
అయితే ఇంకా లేదు, ఇంకో 2-3 రోజులు పట్టింది, ఇంకా ప్రాసెస్ లేదు. అది నా క్లాస్ అవును. So you can see the syntax here. It is going to download entity framework version from a website called newget.org. So this is a website, guys. So from this website, system is going to get the free and open source .NET projects available. So from this, if you search entity framework, so you can have this entity framework types. So this is what the .NET suitable, .NET framework suitable entity framework. So latest version is 6.4, maybe the stable version is 6.2. System is getting download that particular version when you select this instructions. So it's getting hang. Give me a bit time, let it complete, then we can continue. You can see, so whatever the tables you selected, those will be displayed like this. So this is diagrammatical view. Let it save. After saving, I will show you what happened exactly with the steps what we followed. Yeah, it was saved. Now here in the solution explorer, if you observe the changes what happened with the steps, so under references you can see entity framework and entity framework SQL server both are installed. So since we selected the product type SQL server and we are installed entity framework version, so these two got installed under references. Coming to this EDMX file, so EDMX file is nothing but entity data model. EDMX stands for entity data model extensible. So inside that you can see there is a file called dbmodel.context. Context is nothing but where it is going to group the list of available tables whatever you selected. So if you open that, there is a .cs file. If you open that, you can see here, so it is going to use base name as db entities, and it is going to use the class called user, which can be operated with the name users. That's what I mentioned, singularize and pluralize. So now let's see what is this user class available. So you can see here whatever the columns are there in SQL Server table, those are got generated as a class properties. You can see ID, first name, last name, city, age. Understand, guys? So your table has converted as a class. So according to this, now you can perform the insert or retrieve or delete operations. Okay. So is it clear as of now? Please confirm. Any queries from your side? Team, please respond everybody. Is it clear? Okay, good. So now let's simply perform an insert command by using this entity framework. So first of all, you can take this using statement, because as I already mentioned in edu.net also, whenever you want to use a class for repeatedly, so instead of going with every time a new object name, you can use the word using. So whatever the context name that we generated, that is db entities, that's why I asked you to keep a single word in every project so that you can easily recognize. So you can create an object for that. So now from this context you can get whatever the classes that you want to operate. My class name is user. So user, some user is equal to new user. So I hope you remember this. So by this way you can insert the values. So how to insert the values? So ID already system generated, no need to pass anything. So first name like that, last name, so something like this. You can insert whatever the properties that you want to insert from this particular class. Now the data was loaded to an object. Now you can simply pass that to the context db dot, what is the table name, that is users dot add, you can pass this user object. So now if you execute, nothing will be happen, because the thing is, so you are including the data to an entity framework context only. You are not making this particular transaction permanent. So that is the reason whenever you are performing any DML operation, so you need to write whatever the object of the context dot save changes, then this change will affect in the database side also. So if you are forgetting this particular statement, so this particular data is not being saved in your database. Now simply execute this one. So now here let's go to our SQL server again. So if you write a select star, you can see the record which we had sent from front end. So you can see this. So if you observe, by using entity framework, you didn't write SQL connection, you didn't write SQL command. So however we operate a C# class, in the same way we are able to insert the data. I hope it is clear. Any queries from your side? So one more thing, since it's a blind assumption that it is inserted successfully, in case if you want to understand whether it is inserted or not, this particular save changes also will return a number, how many rows it is affected. So based on that also you can write, you can decide whether it is insertion is successful or failure. So int, if you remember, this is equal to our execute non-query. So here you can write if rows greater than 0, if it is at least one row inserted, then on screen I can print inserted successfully. If not, fail to insert. That's it. So now let's execute once again. Now you can get a statement that inserted successfully. So if you see here, just a minute, yeah, now you can see the second record was also inserted. So like that we can perform the insert operation by using entity framework. So please confirm, so that I will continue for the further operations like select, update, delete and all those. Is it clear, guys? So this is for insertion. So suppose in case if you want to get data from the table and I want to print it on the screen. So very simple, whatever the context name object dot, yes I am recording the session, I will share. I cannot send the code, but I will share the video with you. So whatever the object of this context db entities dot, what is the table name that you want to operate, that users dot to list. So now you can see whenever you are returning it into list format, you can get the result list of users it is showing, you can see here. Okay, so list of user, not users, okay, some result equal to. So if you are confusing with the return type, you can simply keep the type var. Var means it can store anything. So otherwise, if you are aware about what is the return type, you can use the list of users. So after that, you can go with a for each loop. So var some x in result. Okay, so in the console write line, you can print whichever the data that you want to print. X dot id, you can maintain a space. X dot name, first name, immediately x dot last name, I need a space. Like that, whatever the data that you want to print, you can select accordingly. So at last I am going to write this console read key. So now let's execute. You can see the data was fetched in this format. Clear? So suppose if this is all stuff is confusing you, you can simply write like this: db.users.toList in place of result. So you can complete it in a single statement. Both are same. Even result is nothing but db.users.toList, right? So this is also going to give you the same result. So this is how you can select. If you observe this particular syntax, whatever we are writing, this is nothing but our link statements, lambda expressions, I mean to say. Okay, so if you want to get only the first element, then what you will do? So you can simply write console write line. Before this you have to write var result equal to db dot users dot first or default. Then you will get only the first record. So here you can print like this: result dot id, result dot first name. Like that you can print. So result dot first name. Here you doesn't require any for each loop, because we are getting only one record. Now you can see the data of the first user. I hope it is clear. Selecting multiple records and selecting the first record, or else you can also write a where condition also. So let me go back with the previous code. So here I just want to print the people whose city is some Mumbai. So then you can write dot where. You can take some variable, entity variable, y dot city equal to Mumbai. You can also filter the records based on where conditions. I mean to say, here you can use every link statement which we covered so far. And you can also arrange the data according to an order. Dot order by descending, some entity name, order by what? Order by id, in descending order. So then you will get the data in descending order, 2 and 1 you can see. Clear, guys? So why I am going with select means, before updating or before deleting, you need to select the data. That's why I am writing all these statements. Any queries from your side? Okay. So now the third one, how to update the data. So here these are my records. I just want to update the city to some Hyderabad for the first record. So how to update? So whichever the record that you want to update, that you need to select first. So see how we can write that: db dot users dot where some x dot id equal to 1. If I take like this, system will expect it is going to return multiple records. That is the reason I am going to write again first or default. So then I will get only one record, even though if there are two records with ID 1, it is going to take only the first one. So where result equal to, so now here what you will do, whichever the column you want to update, that column you can update like this, dot city equal to some Hyderabad. That's it. You can assign all the columns with new values, not only city, you can also update first name last name also in case it is required. At last you need to do one thing, db dot save changes. So according to this only you can convey that whether this update operation is successful or failure. So now let me execute this one. So here you can see this, the city was updated to Hyderabad. Clear guys? So this is how you can update the data. So whichever the records you want to update, first you have to select them. If it is one record, you can write like this. If it is multiple, you can keep a for each loop also. For each loop you can do like this, to list. So then what you will do, for each where some res result, every time what you will do, res dot city is equal to Hyderabad, and you can make it the change permanent, db dot save changes. This is for multiple row updations. Earlier we wrote only single row update. Clear guys? Now let's go to delete. In case if I want to delete, how to delete the rows. So here I am going to give where id is equal to 2 dot first or default. I am selecting only one record, even though if id are there are two records with id number 2. So very simple, db dot table name users dot remove. For add, however we are using add, so for delete we can use remove. You can pass that object, the result object, and db dot save changes. That's it. We are deleting and we are making the change effective in the database. So now let's click on the start. So if you go to this, you can see now we have only one record. The second record was deleted. So this is how you can perform operations by using entity framework without writing a single SQL query. Done with the DB first. If you have any queries, please let me know.